everyone, welcome to the next of BDI's vlog series. Today we are going to bust some myths about the north and the south. We get a lot of doctors who've already got a rough idea of where they want to be in the UK, but there are some misconceptions about good and bad things about living in the north or the south of the UK, so we're going to talk through one or two of those today. Okay, number one, the weather. Generally speaking, there's a sort of idea that if you're in the north of England, then the weather is going to be significantly worse than if you're on the south coast of England. Honestly, it's actually not that different. I mean, generally you might get a few more days rain in the north or a few more days sun in the south, but largely, if you think about where you live just now, so if you travelled 2 hours north of where you are, is the weather hugely different from where you are at the moment? It would be the same as if you were in London and moving to Manchester. It's 2 hours away on the train. So unless you are going to the very, very north of Scotland, where probably the weather is quite a lot worse, and I can say that as somebody who's from Scotland, then there's not going to be a huge deal of difference. So when you're considering your locations, don't think that you're going to the sunny south coast versus the Midlands. It's not that much different. All right, number two, really important if you're coming with your young family, is going to be schools. So again, is there a difference between the education that you get living in the north of England or the north of the UK versus living in the south? Again, not really. The education system in the UK is generally very, very good, and also the schools are governed by something called Ofsted. They've all got different inspections, and the government mandates what the criteria is for every curriculum. So wherever you are in the UK, there's a set core curriculum that you have to learn that has to be taught in a specific way. As a result of that, the content of the schooling is the same wherever you are. There will be differences in funding between private schools and public schools. In the north, they still have grammar schools generally, although they are sort of dying out, I suppose. There's not as many of them. So really, the schooling in the UK is standardised, and it's not going to vary too much depending on where you are. If you do want to go down the private school route, then obviously there's different things that you can look into. You have to remember that there is quite a significant cost to that. That's really a personal preference kind of thing. But schooling in the UK, standardised, core curriculum, it's going to be much for much. Okay, number three, the economy. What am I going to get for my money? How much is the cost of living varied between the north and the south? Actually, on this one, there is a difference, and it is quite significant. So if you decide to work in the north of England or in Scotland, then the cost of housing and the cost of living is going to be significantly cheaper than if you decide to pitch up in the centre of London. So different locations carry different costs, and obviously that depends on how popular they are. Supply and demand means that where there are more people and there's more competition for houses, means that they are going to be more expensive, whether you're buying or renting. So in the north, the average 3-bed, and I say the north, I mean anything sort of north of, I suppose, Northampton, moving up in sort of Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle, a 3-bedroom house on average is going to cost you about £175,000. So, obviously still a good cost, but if you compare that to the south, where the average across everything for a 3-bed house for the same is about £350,000, there is quite a big gap. So obviously a lot of doctors are very concerned about whether their salary is going to cover their cost of living, how much they're going to be spending on food, on accommodation, etc. You will get more for your money in the north, and that may be a consideration for you if you're moving from overseas. Okay, number four, people. So we get a lot of emails from people saying, "Oh, I've heard that it's people in the north are friendlier, and it's very rude if you move to a big city, particularly in London." Honestly, people are people, and there are rude people and there are friendly people wherever you go. So I don't think that there's a particular divide in terms of people up north being more friendly or people in the south being not as friendly. I mean, it just varies by location, I suppose. I don't think that that's a myth that bears any truth. Obviously, I think that Scottish people are fantastic, and maybe they are a little bit better, but that's my bias being from there. So you can rule that out. I think wherever you go, you will get support. The communities across the UK are pretty multicultural, so wherever you go there's probably going to be a good community, whether that's a different religion or a different background. UK is a very multicultural society, and there are people from all walks of life and all sorts of countries who have moved here and set up their families in different locations. So north or south, I think that you're going to find that it's pretty welcoming and a very good mix. I wouldn't say that people from the north are more friendly than people from the south. All right, last one, number 5. There is a myth that if you work in the south, you're going to get paid more than anyone who works in the north, according to the NHS pay scales. Partially true. So there's some truth in that there is an additional London weighting, which compensates for the really high cost of living. So if you're taking a job inside the M25 in Greater London, then there is an additional uplift on your salary. It's not very much, it's probably a couple of £1,000s to help sort of subsidise the extra cost, but everyone works the same NHS pay scale, so your experience in your home country will determine what your salary band is, and it shouldn't vary from trust to trust. I think we've got another vlog and a couple of blog articles about pay scales and how you can work out roughly what you should be entitled to. But north, south, wherever you are, the NHS uses the same pay circular. So there is a slight uplift in London it's called the London weighting, but it should be the same wherever you go. Alright, thanks for watching. That was our myth-busting vlog on the North and the South divide. I hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. Emails at apply@. We've got lots of the vlogs, lots of the blogs. I'm sure you've probably seen them already, but if there's anything that's not covered, just let us know, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.